type of shit. But you know, kind of the senses and the spirit looking to unfail. So it's not what you say, it's how you say it. Because when you read the two-dimensional posts, for communication's sake, it's up to me to like maybe I should actually read what I'm saying. You know, maybe I should read what I'm saying so we could understand it differently, right? Maybe I should phrase what I'm saying into something of a question. Like, is this happening? Is there a possibility of how any claim I am making could happen? So for some context, I'm actually gonna write that down. So I'm gonna kind of take it slow, right? So everything that I'm saying, could it happen? You know, could it happen in a different way, in a different how, right? Could it happen? Like, how could it happen in a different way? So how can it happen in a different way, in a different shifting way we might not perceive? Because like, obviously, when someone reads whatever the fuck I'm saying, of course you could have a reaction that's cringe, like, whoa, what is this? We don't understand it, right? We don't understand where it's coming from. We don't understand the science behind it and the law behind it, and the science and the law and the system. They're kind of they're obviously they're already interconnected, right? So since they're already interconnected, that standard system has different contexts of a downside where it could be thwarted and used out of its original alignment, right? So if it's used out of its original alignment, then if I were to make a possible claim to be put in the quote unquote the original court of law, end quote, for a different solving of things and a different equalization of things, then with intellectual confidence, we would have to follow up on the original reasoning and logic of, first of all, what are you saying? Of course, you would ask that. After you're saying, what are you saying? How are you saying it? After we were trying to see how you're saying it, let's agree and become more clear on how it's being said and how it's being said. If you were to bring it to a quote unquote original court of law, end quote, for the sake of a different new balance and resolving, we would have to understand how it's being said, right? So it's in a state of a possibility of a proposal, right? So we have to ask these presidents like so before the possibility of the conversation, before Trump and Xi Jinping, before the possibility of their conversation, before that, pause for a second, before the possibility of that, there's casual claims that could be cited, CITED, for the people who have slow intelligence. There are claims that could be cited, perhaps, where certain select leaders, they say specifically, what are they saying specifically for the slow intelligence? Because obviously, like, I'm like really coming from a different future, but that's in parentheses and that's neither here or there. Before the possibility of the conversation, we have to see what is being cited, what claims could have been made, such as, particularly, perhaps a leader could have claimed that we don't need the other being, right? And it's not specifically Trump and Xi Jinping. It's it could just be any president at odds with any other president, right? So what am I trying to say here? So a president can make a claim, right? Quote unquote, so they say, right? Where they don't need another president, right? They don't need, and the other president can more or less agree. So since there's, and I'm not saying it specifically for Trump and Xi Jinping, I'm just saying like, if Trump were to say something along the lines of, we don't need that particular person. I'm not trying to put I'm not trying to put words in anybody's mouths. And this is real, natural, neutral political science. If you just peek between the lines, is if they were to say whether it's hypothetical or non-hypothetical, whether they were to say, if we don't need that other person, if we don't need that nation, and that nation is coming to us standardly with the standard political science beyond the Google shit since 2020 underground, respectively, just saying it for respecting the nature and the energy, if you have the intelligence and understanding to do so, and I know your robots know where the real source of it is. So there's no debate in the original court systems, there's no debate because the truth is already known on a different level. But but not to get off topic, what am I trying to say on the other claim? The other claim is saying like, with the basic political science that's going on, it's saying if one president is claiming they don't need a particular nation, but that nation is coming to this president for something, then that's what the conversation and negotiation should be centered around, a particular type of trade, business, logistic trade. So it's a trade, business, logistic trade, meaning that before the possibility of the conversation itself is who needs what from who and what and why. It's because they need to fill a deficit within their country, and there's something that can't be made in their country that we have, some type of goods that we have, or vice versa. Or maybe they found a way to internalize the mechanization of the resource where they don't need the other nation. So why would one nation need another nation for the trades, for them to experience and diversify each other with life? If Chinese people want to come to America and America want to go to Chinese, that's where the negotiation takes place for the trade experience of life, not necessarily for the product or the goods. It's for the experiences above the products respectively, because we are the soul, are in life engaging with the soul primarily and first most. So respectively in some esoteric science shit, the experience is slightly above the product itself. And everybody like just peeping game and just doing this like standard, like this basic copy replication shit, and they're selling like beta basic energy, like old outdated shit, and they're in their sales room meeting and they're just like trying to spin the wheel and make ends meet and do it for like zombified causes, and they're interwebbed without them realizing it in the outdated, obsolete Federal Reserve system, and that's already been on shadow hacked across the board, and they don't see the original artificial intelligence that can be fixing that, and how in a different context, quote unquote, some context of the cybersecurity world will block a profile, right? For some reason, maybe like hypothetically, like from a like I could be getting like different interactions internationally, right? And for some reason, this part of like the Central Intelligence Agency Computer Logistics Center, there's just like a withholding for some reason. So that's kind of like it's like an opposite of a breach, right? It's like there's like an improper withhold within the system, right? So in the future, I will read like the two-dimensional post that I'm saying, obviously, of just like because like I want to break shit down, like that's the whole point of the conversation, right? That's the whole point of coming to meet and conversate to begin with, is like we have to break shit down and make things make sense before we even engage in the possibility of a conversation. We have to know the prep work, right? So it's like it's all these news headlines, like some of their intelligence, it's kind of like lacking, it's not seeing the critical intelligence. It's just kind of going along for the ride, kind of like Little House on the Prairie, right? Type of shit. But what am I really trying to say here is like before the conversation, we have to know like what the issue is, right? So the issue is like maybe someone might have a particular distaste or dislike with the reviews that are here, right? There's a review like, okay, you said something in this passage of this script or whatever, and someone is saying, I don't like that. Just a casual complaint, and obviously that's the updated evolution of customer service, right? Someone's gonna have a complaint about something, right? So if there's a complaint about something, how does that get handled? It's seeing it's seeing the hidden solution and the hidden reasoning of maybe we have been mistaken in our approach. What does that mean? If I'm mistaken in my approach and I say something off key of just like, this is like, some replicative shit. Well, that's part of the original open source. It's part of like doing like, okay, that's the original open source is recognizing that things are naturally doing their own thing, and they a different algorithm is like working through that shit, meaning there's just different exchanges of energies and of the elements and planets that are going on without our knowledge, and that's not good or bad. That's just what it is, right? And we're catching up with that, right? For us to be on the earth, for us to somehow like just be with the air god itself or whatever, to work with the air god, like, and I'm not saying anything about, anything about like, improper, what do you call that? Improper like taxing, So I'm gonna skip through the Dow real quick, and then I'm gonna finish this book real quick. I'm gonna make this video short because I just wanted to kind of tell you like my approach is like coming in an approach where I'm trying to like I'm literally like, aside from like just like the kind of like the disturbances, the general disturbances that are out there, there's something in the spirit that literally has to balance it, or and even wants to balance it, enjoys balancing it amidst the disturbance. I'll call it an energetic disturbance these days because I don't want to use the word distortion or detriment because it's too like broken recordy. So I'll use the word disturbance. There's a disturbance, there's a disalignment, right, within the energy. And if we don't wake up to the disturbance and the disalignment generally in the system, then you're like you're fighting a battle that is voting for some type of like self-destruction. There's like a particular theme in life where we don't realize there's a self-destruction theme aside from people's polarities and narratives of them having upper hands and lower hands in material life. There's like many other themes than just like what we are going through, the individual. And I'm not downplaying anybody, I'm just saying there's more themes to be learned. That's life, going in the future of life, there's more things to be learned. So it's like within that, it's like I already know someone like, somewhere in the backdrop of shit, like someone could have already been wearing this style, so I like, it's up to me just to accept that and see like how that could have came about just for the sake of some other natural shit, because then you could balance the mind and the mind's kind of yearning to see like the mind's quest for just basic meaning, right? The mind has a basic quest to make meaning, right? So if we could agree on that the mind has a basic quest to make meaning, then you're here to make meaning out of most righteously and naturally the situation that you're in, of like why is this happening, So so like when I read my two-dimensional approaches, I want to come in a mood of like maybe like, and it's not necessarily like getting stuck on one title, of just like saying this industry is this industry and it's taking care of this. No, the industries are kind of like pivoting within each other, such as like just like the tech literacy industry, of just like the computer tech literacy industry standardly is just saying like, it's interconnected with like CIA intelligence and government intelligence, political science intelligence, the political science data metrics and like demographics, the data metrics demographics and the political science. It's low-key intermeshed with the quote-unquote cybersecurity field, end quote, if that's what you want to call it, right? The computer tech literacy field of just like, there could be unwarranted withholds on your intellectual property account in America, quote unquote, the USA, right? Where freedom of speech and freedom of going and freedom of liberty or whatever, or like having some notion of liberty, having some sense of liberty, goes hand in hand synergistically with some type of freedom of speech. It's like USA has a low-key gift to use the freedom of speech to help out the liberty that we're all trying to fucking figure out, and we're all trying to prop it up in America, yet it's wavering back and forth, yet the liberty is here and there, and yet the samskara themes and elements are still here, and it's wavering. There's freedom that's wavering. That's a different channel from the material level. There's a freedom There's a freedom of speech that not other countries necessarily have, but they don't have that. But since they don't have that, they might have a different gift, right? They might have, and that gift, it's just a different complex game, because like for someone like to have the gift of like material riches, yet they don't have the recollection of like a particular type of flavor of freedom of speech, then that's a unique gift and curse dynamic. It's like you pick your poison kind of shit, and you like before the life, right? And then you find out that the poison is the fucking lesson, right? You know, the poison is, it's like it is some type of like teacher, right? So that's the whole thing with this shit. It's like, and like, you know, this is original open source, because like obviously like all of this stuff that's happening right now, it's just like it's just the course of nature, pretty much, to put it in a different balance, right? Because it's like someone's gonna ask, like, what's going on with the system itself, right? What's going on with the system? It's like some type of course of nature and anti-nature, respectively, already. And that anti-nature and nature, we're stuck in between that game. We're stuck in between the game of nature and anti-nature. And since we're stuck in between the game, that's our dilemma. And no matter what we pull from anti-nature and nature, we're still kind of quote unquote at odds with them, because we're still using their shit to battle other shit, just because we're subjected by their shit, nature and anti-nature. So since we're subjected by nature and anti-nature, and for some reason we could be at odds with one of them when using both of them, that's the matrix Maya of the detrimental duality, the detrimental good and bad, you know, of energies. So this is me really cracking the code on some real shit, and you know, seeing something to be united is just to honor a different balance and agreement of, you know, what do you call that? You know, just seeing the higher connection, right? Because if because I could have been any of these races in the past life or in a different life. So it's up to me to see the higher connection of this shit, you know? So since I'm seeing the higher connection of it, it's like there's a respect, you know. Everyone like has to like kind of like, you know, work for that respect, and it's up to us to use the freedom of speech for us to correct our indifference of non-liberty. Because if we don't use the freedom of speech, then our non-liberty will not be corrected. It will just be non-liberty. It's because your freedom of speech is being taken away energetically, and you're somehow unconsciously choosing that because you need some type of handler for just some crazy esoteric psychological reason, like, right? So the esoteric psychological reason is like, we need a handler, or there's some unconscious programming or subconscious programming implanted where you need that, when that's not the truth. It's a different detrimental agenda for different detrimental archonic beings that want control for a certain reserve in the solar system, because the solar system is the council of the gods on a natural level, and the anti-nature is just seeing how we're in a game of competition that's completely false, and we're fighting like artificial wars. But that's not good, that's not bad, that's your choice, right? And it's not necessarily true or false for anything. It's just saying, like, if you want to fight an artificial war based on illusion and confusion, that's on you, boo. So since that's on you, boo, it's like I will read my two-dimensional shit and explain it, right? And I will say in such a way where it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And how I'm saying it is it a possibility where the computer tech literacy industry data field is inverted in a particular way, in a particular technical literacy way, where aside from the surface level programs and hypes of the AIs and whatnot and all of this shit, slightly underneath that, there's like a hacking, there's an inversion, there's a withholding, there's an opposite of the rhetoric, there's the opposite of the claims, such as like, you know, there's just going to be an unwarranted withholding, right? So if there's an unwarranted withholding, then somewhere in the and this is like, you could call it quote unquote like esoteric feminine cybersecurity or whatever, meaning that within the field of things, there has been a wall put up around your intellectual profile and your Wizard of Oz profile and your strawman profile within the system of the matrix, right? And obviously, like the brother predecessor can pull up the necessary archives and links to explain the expertise of that whole schematic. And I've spoken about it in the underground of just that of your of how your social security profile could be looked at esoterically, and how there could be like, how there could be some type of quote unquote garnering, end quote, within the profile of you and the system and the CIA, and then the service level AI bullshit hype and the tech and the code hype comes after that, right? 1665 type of shit, right? So, like, everything that I'm writing down on the fucking shit, maybe I'll just read it so you can understand the approach differently. Because it's like, you're gonna come on here, read my fucking feed, and just cringe, possibly cringe. Like that's the basic human that could be going to a zombified state. Of course they're gonna do that because they have no other way to look. They have no other way to think. They're just like they have a unique shadow work of working for confused shadow mind states, right? Without them knowing it. So they're doing like a whole different shadow working, right? Where they're just like, there's a zombified like GMO perspective of just like what is he talking about type of shit. I don't get it type of shit. That's why the communicator has to like be fluent with the message he's trying to convey and parlay. So everything that I'm saying, if I were to reread it, it would be because respectively, it would be because so you could see my different approach to it, is that a possibility? Everything that I'm claiming within the two-dimensional pose, and you have some type of perhaps side-eye view of what is he saying, you would have to ask yourself, if you have an inkling of intelligence, is it a possibility though, without your detrimental, hating, psychological mindset, and without your cheeseman rat mentality mindset of just saying like just being a toxic ass motherfucker, as opposed to actually seeing the reasoning behind it, right? So there's a difference between just being a toxic ass motherfucker and actually really understanding the reasoning and the possibility, the real original possibility of like, it is a possibility that this shit is happening in a different framework, right? Where people could just be using credit within the matrix system, the old matrix system, currency. They could be using credit currency from the old guard and the old matrix system, and they could be using that and giving and profundulating and approving of just loans within how currency is the middleman to be an upholder, to transact, and for you to obtain resources. But the thing is, like, that currency could be shifting with a different change of guard, right? So since the currency is already shifting, then you could be unwarrantedly giving currency away because the resources that you're selling on a second, third party level based on you giving out currency, and like the resources are being like kind of exploited and like kind of like distorted and mismanaged respectively, then that's a type of, it's a particular disalignment and distortion with the financial field. There's currency being given out for like for just approaches of where for like, it's like things are being given out, so things could be done in a haphazardly way, right? So I'm just saying, like, there, and that is a possibility. That is a possibility where it is a haphazard way. There's a haphazard way of doing it, right? So let me just go to my feed, right? Let me go to my feed, and I'll bite the bullet. I'll bite the bullet to see what am I saying, and like if I'm just like a basic citizen, doesn't really matter in the country, just like going around and just like, who's this guy? You know, I have to own up. I have to bite the bullet with like, someone might have a distaste towards me, and my intelligence recognizes that distaste, right? So if my intelligence recognizes that distaste, it's up to me to swallow that psychological pill, right? It's up to me to take that pill and just be like, what have I created? What have you created? What have we created? That's the reality check pill. What is being created right now, aside from every type of hype, beyond all of the hype, what's being created, what's being made, what's being caused and affected? That's the reality check psychological pill we have to fucking put in our mouth metaphorically. We have to put that pill up our butt metaphorically so we could know what's happening. And I'm not saying put any pills up your butt, but I'm just saying the reality life check psychological pill that we have to see is like, how are things happening respectively? So, but there's a difference between my individual case and the collective case, right? And the individual case right here is what I'm saying is like, I'm obviously have to grow my intelligence so I can be mindful, so I know what I'm saying, how I'm saying it, re-explaining it, so I can take a particular type of energetic responsibility for and be prepared for the repercussions of anything that I say could have. Welcome to modern 2025, you know, the US. Because we have that energy to like be from that. And obviously it's a different discussion how the US was made by different heat energy beings, right? Or aliens or whatever. You know, it's because obviously like it's like the humans didn't make the earth and the individual nations per se. It was a particular collaboration with different genetic star races making their byproduct human genetic case, and then having a teamwork in the dream realm and in the nation and in the solar system for that to be a reflection in the post nations, right? And obviously start this from the beginning. But like I would have to take my own what do you call that? I would have to take the point of what I'm saying here is like I have to be ready for the repercussions, right? But for some reason here in the States, we're starting at a different foot, right? We have different metaphorical shoes. We're starting off at a different foot in the race. For some reason, we have a more enhanced, significant gift, respectively, of freedom of speech for whatever reason, right? Like that's a different conversation. Why we have more freedom of speech, what that's gonna do for us, why the predecessors put it in the fucking matrix game where the States has more freedom of speech, just some fucking crazy matrix incarnation reason. And within that crazy matrix incarnation reason, the people in the States, we get to use that or not. We get to exalt that or be a zombie to the gifts that we have in the States. Because the freedom of speech, that's what's making us quote unquote American to begin with, right? Is for us to have this particular type of freedom to fucking go for more freedom and more liberty. That's the fucking beyond the matrix shit. That's the beyond the suffering shit. That's the old Vedic shit. That's the Vedic shit expressing and recognizing all the different genetic races and the Rakshas and the Rickshaws and the Lickshas and the Dickshas and the Thrickshas and the Brukshas and the Thuchas and the Pluchas and the Thruchas and the Fluchas and the Flikas. And so basic Vedic lore is it recognizes and it knows the different genetic races, but no matter what, every nation is still an outward expression that has came from without, from within, and they traveled on their own destination accords, and now they're a new genetic race based on the temperaments and the directions they've traveled towards, and the shared similar universal law and the differentiated law and their own individual law that they've created from going from without the source, from within to without. The nations coming from a source, going away from source, not good, not bad, and having an individual expression per the nation, then the individual doing that from the nation, and in the metaphor, your nation is your metaphorical God, right? Because that's the thing that has governance over you, right? Your government has some type of governance over you, the metaphorical God, right? So what am I really trying to say here without getting too sleeted up and skeeted up and schmeated up and schmeeskeed up and and titillated and stipulated and stimulated and plipulated and promulgated and nominated and nominated and promulgated, homulated, unjondulated, propulated, gonjulated, ungonjanonulated, schlongulated, protoculated, noculated, ongongulated, ongodulated, God graduated. I don't even know what that means. But anyways, so what am I trying to say here for real? So the freedom of speech is being used in such a way where we are understanding how we have a certain foothold to go in the future, right? Like each nation is so diverse, we have a different foothold to go into some type of shared future, because the future is all the nations doing their nation dance and them having possible war or peace to make the future what it is, beside the high-tech hype bullshit, fart shit, poop shit. It's like the nations and how they're at peace or war, that's what's making the future, and then that's what's going to dictate the peace or the retransformation around your national district to be whatever the fuck it is. But that's the thing, it's like it's up to the earth and the many different nations to want to really agree with the universal balance or not, aside from like, you know, the fake titles of it, right? The fake titles meaning the fake titles of the fake titles. It is what it is, type of shit. So I'm just saying, like, I'm intellectually responsible and mindful. I'm intellectually mindful and responsible to know the repercussions, because there's a deeper intention and there's a deeper reasoning of it. So it's like, it's not what you're saying, it's how you're saying it, right? It's the approach that's happening behind it, right? So it's up to me to like be sober and make it clear of the critical intelligence that's being missed and lacked, and how it's being used with a balanced approach, right? And the balanced approach is every claim that I've ever made is saying with higher intelligence, is that actually a possibility without you bypassing it for whatever, you know, for whatever cowardice, immature, intellectual reason. There are people bypassing the claims within the ironic advancement rhetoric of the artificial intelligence game. There are people bypassing intelligence. There are people bypassing laws. There are people bypassing order. There are people bypassing maturity and code of conduct. There are people bypassing policies. There are people bypassing policies. There are people bypassing, you know, truth. There are people bypassing needed relationships. That's the state of the old fucking, you know, spaghetti intelligence or whatever. So like, so to keep this fucking little podcast running or whatever, I'll read what I'm saying from a certain standpoint, so I don't sound, so it doesn't look, because obviously, like, if someone comes on my profile, they're gonna be like, what the fuck is this shit, right? So within them coming on my profile, they're gonna be, what the fuck is this shit? But without the proper explanation, then it would be up to me to give that proper explanation. So when they read the two-dimensional post, they don't see it as a psychological hater. The psychological hater is, it's up to me to transform the psychological hater, you know, rat mind intelligence to see the intelligence of the possibility of it happening, right? Of like, you know, the quote unquote Federal Reserve System being shifted in such a way where it's detriment and it's false, right? Standardly. And if we don't see that and there's withholdings of it, then who's to really blame? You know, this is a real original court case, and it's transcending people's, like, you know, people's misaligned, incomplete fragments of whatever system they're working with, because whatever system they're working with, it has cognitive dissonance bypassing mechanisms, because there's obvious missing pieces, right? So since there's obvious missing pieces, so Because obviously someone can review my shit, right? But if you don't see the reasoning of the shit I'm saying, then what's the point of any of this shit? So let me start right here. But like I get it though. I get it though, you know, like can the system be repaired, you know, as I'm flowing, can the system be repaired as we flow? Can the system be repaired? So, okay, let's start right here. Let's measure each nation's intelligence today. So, feeling that energetically, and aside from just reading the sentence, because obviously, like the evolution of the human, it's gonna catch on to that, right? So it's up to me to let that go and just honor it. I have to honor it. I have to honor that the humans, or just the collective. The collective is like the collective is intelligent in such a way where we don't necessarily just have to two-dimensionally understand them. We can kind of feel what is being said, such as every sentence that I ever say, it could point to a whole different feeling that happened in a whole different time, and it could point to a whole different presentation where we could go beyond just that particular sentence, and we don't have to dwell on that particular sentence. It could see in a different level of esoteric science within a different context of esoteric science itself. It could actually be proven though, but on an esoteric science, not just the mechanical artificial science of things. So obviously recognizing the mechanical artificial science of things, obviously, but then there being an esoteric science where we could actually use the esoteric science itself to actually prove it, right? Like before the conversation between Trump and Z, what needs to be known? The esoteric science. So now what am I saying about the esoteric science? Who needs what more than the other nation? So that deficit would have to be compensated. So since that deficit would have to be compensated, we could then have a more balanced proper tariff being established by the energetic need based on the energetic science of how we're trying to fill a deficit in a fair order based on how we need that from a different country. So before the possibility of the conversation of Z and Trump, we need the esoteric science to see who needs more than the other person. And there's a couple paragraphs here because I'm reviewing my own shit. I'm mature, mindful, and I have a different intelligence where I could like own up to the repercussions of this shit. I'm owning, like, this is the testimony. This is the testament itself. These messages have the energy of the testament to own up to even the repercussions, because I'm like explaining myself for the original balance court of things, and the court signifies balance, right? Supposedly, right? So if the court signifies balance in a different level, and there's a need for the court in the system, and you're going against balance, then you're going against the fucking courts. And if you're going against the courts and then you bitch and complain about other shit, and then you need the courts, you're on some metaphorical meta tangent of self-destruction, because somewhere along the lines you need the balance of the courts, and somewhere along the lines you're fighting against the balance of courts, because you're fighting a part of the balanced part of self, so you're fighting yourself. That's a theme of self-destruction that, irrespective of the individual and the nation, that the individual and the nation could go through. They could go through a theme of self-destruction, regardless of the ego identity of the nation, most respectively. So we're transcending this shit. Like 2037 China, Dubai, 2077, God is there on a different fucking level. Because like God is beyond time. So this 2025 shit, it kind of reminds me of like it's individual and subjective to you, but there's always going to be a tower moment in life, right? And that's life. That's life. And I'm not saying to amplify that or de-amplify that. I'm not saying to, in toxicity, encourage that or discourage that. No, it's to naturally see the reality of the tower moments as they are, not to provoke them or de-provoke them, not to fucking negatively amplify them or de-amplifying, seeing them in original esoteric maturity intelligence to see how they're just general tower movements and how there's companies that claim to help, that they could stand and support that shit, but there's a flaw, there's different esoteric science flaws in it, then that's why there's universal intelligence that's beyond AI, because it's fostering and it's giving the energy of support for things to keep moving beyond the AI. And everybody in the field of AI are pussy spirits, majority, 98% of them. Because you're gonna hear this right now, you're gonna hear my whole case, and I've been doing this originally since 2017 underground, and you're just gonna bypass it because you're a coward spirit. Period. And if the shoe fits, I'm not saying it to anybody particularly, but if the shoe fits, then fill in the blank. So I'm saying this naturally. So let me start from a certain point real quick, and I'm trying to read this book real quick. Let me read one chapter of the Tao. Let me read the feed, and then I'm gonna finish the taking care of business type of shit. So I'm just gonna read chapter 15. No, actually, okay. Let me finish this real quick. So I'll go down there. So it's not what I'm saying, it's how I'm saying it. It's not what I'm doing, it's how I'm approaching it. It's not what I'm necessarily even saying, it's how I'm meaning it, right? So how am I meaning it? So here's a post from Archangel Umbriel. Let's measure each nation's intelligence today. And here's something I didn't write, with esoteric science. And I just explained that. Data being capitalized perhaps without consent, using different types of data throughout the day of the individual profiles, and it being sold on different markets and then replicated and stolen from the individual, from the intellectual property, from a different sovereign universe. So it's the real sovereign shit, not the fake fabricated copy and paste sovereign shit. It's not that. It's not the copy and paste sovereign shit. It's not copy and paste. Let's make sales calls. Let's sell fake shit and get real money by selling fake shit. It's not selling fake. It's not. Let me read a different note. All right. Actually, I think and it's up to me to clarify it. So let's measure each nation's intelligence today. I just explained that. Data being capitalized perhaps without consent. I just skimmed through that as well. Data being capitalized perhaps without consent. You can read this in the original court. It's like I have a brave, balanced intelligence, mind you, senators. Like for real, mind you, senators. Data being capitalized perhaps without consent, particular data breach in sovereign sector. I skimmed that with the previous sentence. Beings making money off of particular significant data breaches that can be recorded and tracked. So they say with their advancements of AI or whatever. Like that data is there on a casual proxy level. How does international courts respond? That's up to how each nation has a relationship with the international court and how they're upholding a new balance for the new international court, or if that new balance is not being upheld, then that international court isn't the real balanced international court. It's not necessarily real yet. It's up to us to foster that in. So that's the thing. It's not necessarily real. So it's up to the communicator and the emanator of the gods to speak it into existence. So how does the international courts respond? They might. So see, look, I'm clarifying the two-dimensional shit. How do the international courts respond? The set out, balanced, desired international courts that we're perceiving and feeling, it might not be a reality in the Kali Yuga right now of 2025, right? The Kali Yuga confused detriment modes and energies of things, no judgment, just saying the differentiation of energies. The disalignment in the system and the energies is still being a thing, The Federal Reserve, money being printed in a hacked digital way for no reason, digital money being printed so you could serve some weird agenda. That's a disalignment of the Federal Reserve, respectively. Data profiles being blocked, hidden, and then usurped by satanic tech players. So satanic tech players in the tech terminology of it, meaning doing it solely for the artificial system, being a tech profession player, and now doxing and withholding and kind of like hacking the quote unquote cybersecurity field, end quote, for the rhetoric of the AI and the tech and the innovation field to say it could do something when it's not doing what it's saying it could do, such as, you know, whatever the fuck the program rhetoric is saying it can do, but it's not doing, and there's a disalignment and there's a hacking within the system from the individual profile to the central intelligence agency of their computer literacy tech field of things. It is ironic. A lot of people in the left foot shadow government system and AI and tech profession mostly are confused cognitive dissonance denial cowards. I already explained that. Not all though. Without knowing it, they don't know it. Their particular esoteric science intelligence hasn't caught up. It's okay. They don't know it. Energetically, standardly, there's a GMO spirit thing going on. Shout out to the best predecessors that go beyond time, because the real path is to go beyond time, but we're just pussyfooting with that ideal, and we're particularly distorting the original pure ideals for the sake of the innovation itself. Like, for the sake of all the innovation, it's coming from the pure ideals that are being distorted. So the whole fucking juxtaposition premise of the hype of all of the AI and innovation shit is based on distorting pure spiritual principles. So that's why the intelligence is ironically retarded in the AI sector. No offense. Natural act, it is what it is. Confused cognitive dissonant denial cowards, it is what it is. Not all though, without knowing it. GMO spirits, shoulder shrug, saying rhetoric modernly that the spirit never amounts to. I explained that part. And obviously I want to rewind it real quick in what I said. I want to rewind it just for a minute with what I just said real quick of like without knowing it. So that the innovation is coming from the Vedic quote unquote hype, you know, to reach this power, right? Reach this power. But as you're going to reach that power, you're then caught with the context of some type of systematic Chinese finger trap, not good, not bad, right? For you to go to that path, there's going to be a disciplined act to get to it. There's a mode of approach where there's going to be a contract for you to fixate and focus on that path. One metaphorical context of the systematic Chinese finger trap. Before you're going to go to that, you have to do this and focus on this, right? And I don't give a fuck. Who's really going to, like, who has the top intelligence to quote unquote roast me, end quote. At the end of the day, it's just, you're just self-projecting, self-reflecting, and you're really not solving shit. So anybody who does roast me, ironically, it won't even fucking make sense, because my purpose and intelligence is beyond this shit. And it's ironic, and it's even more ironic because it's bringing balance to like the whole fucking yard. Sell that milkshake. So that's the thing. It's like, sell that milkshake. So that's the thing. New sales call, like, just do your fucking copy and paste and make all this, you know, make like just the approach is just disaligned. It's the approach is just disgenuine. Some of the approaches are like disgenuine within the sales, you know. And on a balanced level, the possible balanced international courts can recognize that by upholding the real pure innovation and the pure execution of what you're saying it could do. Because whatever you're saying, any of these like service level tech CEOs, there's a lack and an absence for real, respectively, of a pure execution. What do I mean by pure execution? It's not fully doing that. It's just doing that in a bypass cognitive dissonance, you know, toxic way. But obviously within a contrast, it doesn't have to be like that. And now let me read this shit. So I'm gonna read my feed. I want to clarify my feed. And then I want to finish chapter 3. Let me finish chapter 3. Let me read another post in this bubble. I don't know how long it will take for you. I don't know how long, and obviously, like, I guess, you know, someone can make a disclaimer like,
prepare for like, possible cringe. That's okay. This is the hard intellect. I don't know how long it will take for your guys' I don't know how long it will take for your guys' fake copycat childish AIs to download international courts plus God's courts into the world and nations. We don't know. That's in disarray, right? It's in disarray. We're only coming onto the possibility of the balanced international courts with the AI. And if we want to lose that prospect, then that's just a general incompletion from the mature like spiritual predecessors. The mature spiritual predecessors, they will say that's a general incompletion. It's not complete. It's not true. It's not real. It's not accurate. It's disaligned. But eventually, it will happen. It could happen. Type edit that based on how much fake denial, ignorance we need to clean up is how long it will take. So that denial, ignorance energy is something of a unique, esoteric, like firewall, right? Or some type of wall, right? And that wall is just kind of like there to be its own thing, right? I don't know how long that will take, the balancing process. So all disclaimers in effect, obviously, this is raw edit, this is raw draft shit, it's all up for edit, all disclaimers in effect, freedom of speech is in effect, and transcending for real and balancing the law for real. It's either the world is finished or some miraculous hope for that idea. It's either the world is finished or some miraculous hope in working for that ideal without the rat race of grasping for shit that the hires are already doing and making. ... So there's a rat race mentality that's going on of just like, there's just a rat race mentality that has possessed the individual, right? And it has still a whole universe to learn, quote unquote. So God is balance above. The game between cosmic order and distortion is the AI race, copy pasting a higher order in illusion and delusion, thinking there is a competition when it's just petty fake children just reading the system. And I'm not saying anybody specifically, but if the shoe fits, then it fits, and you can reveal yourself. So I'm not saying it's anybody particularly, but these type of context critical sentences will make someone reveal themselves in due time. So I'm doing this for one niche reason of like, you can be provoked to reveal yourself by, if this is you, then that's you. If this is where you're at on your track record, that's it in the esoteric Olympic games of it. I'm not saying anybody is this, but I'm just saying that energy is there. It's an energy that's there. When it's just, I'm not saying anybody's a petty chill. When it's just, I'm not saying anybody's a petty fake child. I'm saying that's an energy that's there that we have to work through. I have to work through it. The esoteric science maturity, I have to work through it, right? That's just the game of life, right? Compression and then release. Suppression, then release. Suppression, then release. But it's not what's being done, it's how it's being done with the malicious motives behind it, or God's pure motives behind it. So that's the peak game shit right there. So I'm not saying anybody particularly is a petty fake child. I'm saying that's an energy that we have to be worked through. So look at, pause. I just clarified that shit, Senator. So mind your game, senators. When it's just petty fake children just rigging the system and having unique toxicity competing, who could take more from their standpoint? We all could recognize that within the industry that we are in energetically or not, Senator. Which one? I don't judge that demonic mini game, Senator, but some type of balance is needed to keep this real shit going, Senator. Original open source. Yep, we're understanding the true original reciprocal original open source of things. Thank you very much. Disclaimer, fictional entertainment content. Yep, freedom of speech. Love Thy Enemy. Whole timeline series. So the whole timeline series, that's tomorrow. Most recent post by Archangel Umbriel. Who needs the other more in the science of it, parentheses and parentheses, whose economy more so encourages flawed sales programs to sell fake shit for real money? Whose economy more so encourages flow sale programs to sell real shit for real money? So two different things. So I just added something to re-clarify. So there's flow sale economies and there's disflow. There's something that's focused on no more flow. We have to contain that. And that is not necessarily good or bad, right? So it's like there's something that has to be like, and that's crazy that I just said that right now, because that brings it up to a whole different point of like, there's this notion of like focusing on something, like a particular type of hard focus on mastering something, right? Like containing a particular thing, like something particular is contained to get a particular energetic result, science, right? So if we're particularly containing something, and the matrix and the algorithm has its own time release date of its algorithm to release, then the containment needs to be contained so a certain energy alchemically could be transformed so it could be ready and have it be a resonant match for the future and the destiny that it will go to be and possibly, right? So the energy needs to be alchemicalized, original open source, like for real though, respectively, just for so most ironically, a big solution could be introduced. So there's another disclaimer right there. The most ironic thing is it's the bigger solution though, So that's like, so the psychological hater intelligence, they don't understand that significant solution dynamic factor. And if the psychological hater intelligence doesn't honor the bigger collective solution dynamic factor, then the solution energetically will be lost on you in your fucking soul path. So this is some real mature shit. Whose economy more so encourages flow sale programs as opposed to flawed sale programs to sell fake shit for real money or to sell real shit for real money? How is real money being hacked across the board per a individual national economies? How is real money being hacked within the system ley lines of the nation's Central Intelligence Agency before the international trade system, and then how can we measure the transformation rate between individual economies of nations, original open source? Because then that would inevitably, energetically, and naturally affect the digital and technical aspect of trade itself, original open source. So the whole hype is being transcended because we're seeing the cause before the effect, before the fucking news channels and chaos erupt. We're seeing a deeper cause before they just make a story of just confused fucking amplification of like not true results and false narratives of things without them knowing it. So we're seeing what affects the digital and technical aspect of trade itself. And we are trying to assist that before we would attempt to conversate. So before the conversation between Trump and Xi Jinping, we would have to see what prep work needs to be done. The esoteric science measurements, the 2037 China shit. I say this respectively for a different international demographic. Chapter 15 of the Tao. Skilled warriors of old were subtle, mysteriously powerful, containment, release type of shit, my parentheses. So deep they were unknowable. Just because they are unknowable, because they're too deep, and people are just energetically, esoterically blinded and have natural cognitive dissonance to that depth, not good, not bad, I will try to describe them. Their wariness was as that of one crossing a river in winter, blistering, parentheses, my parentheses, insert, and parentheses. Their caution was at that of one in fear of all around. Their wariness was at that of one crossing a river in winter. Their caution was at that of one in fear of all around. Their gravity was as that of a guest. Their relaxation was as that of ice at the melting point. Simple as uncarved wood, open as the valleys, they were unscrutable as murky waters. Who can, in turbidity, use the gradual clarification of stillness? Who can, long at rest, use the gradual enlivening of movement? Those who preserve this way do not want fullness. Just because of not wanting fullness, it is possible to use the full and not make anew. So that kind of points to the note of dispassionate. Not wanting fullness is seeing a different mode for, because low key, the Taoists point to entanglement. Tao is saying dispassionate, don't hanker for fullness, because esoteric science energy is saying there's a particular dynamic of entanglement before the science articles of Schrodinger's cat and shit like that. It's like the act and the phenomena, it's a thing before the intelligence reputabilizes it, right? So slightly before the intelligence is documenting it and reputabilizing it, it's a thing, right? It's the enactment of the entanglement of how a particular type of individual soul is having a hankering for an outside illusion of saying individual dissected thing is something that is parading itself as fullness when it's not. An entanglement happens, a metaphorical Chinese finger trap happens. So the Tao respectively is saying some type of dispassionate, but I'm not saying, I'm just saying what the Tao, I'm just trying to say what the Tao is saying. I'm not for or against passion. I'm like I see how the passion of nature arises, and I'm like, I respect that. I'm just trying to see what the Tao is saying. So I respect everybody's, good passion for their good craft, right? With a higher understanding and a no judgment kind of perspective. Simple as uncarved wood, open as the valleys, they were inscrutable as murky waters. Just one with life. Who could in turbidity use the gradual clarification of stillness? Who can long at rest use the gradual enlivening of movement? Those who preserve this way do not want fullness. Just because of not wanting fullness, it is possible to use the full and not make anew. So by not wanting fullness, they can somehow use the fullness because them being something of emptiness kind of pairs with the fullness. And they don't have to make a distorted, disaligned creation. So here's what it's about. It's about not making the creation having the starting point of disalignment. That's the higher intellectual, mature reasoning of it. It's to not make the creation at a haphazard foot. So the real original galactic courts and then the international balance courts, they will catch up to that. That we can't create stuff from distortion, but it happens, and that's 3D. Oh well. I mean, not well like that, but. So I'm going to skim through chapter 3. It's 9 pages. So the headliner for this video is the conversation before Trump and Z. And now I'm going to finish chapter 3, understanding the people. I'm finishing yesterday's episode, business synergistics. Now I'm going to finish chapter 3. On the positive side, controlling people have an excellent sense of industry. Okay. Controlling people often display a lower mentality. They want others to think they are perfect to make up for their self-doubt. Controlling people are often ineffectual in leading others for they manage by intimidation and manipulation, not by understanding. Since controlling people are loyal only to the things that give them power, others do not feel loyal to them. I'm skim reading it. Because their self-esteem is so fragile, controlling people tend to blame others for their problems rather than accept responsibility for themselves. This is when controlling people get depressed, and this is an archetype that we're working through. It's not necessarily that there's just controlling people, but they can. This is when controlling people get depressed, or in a last desperate effort to avoid responsibility, claim that the world is out to get them. Controlling people always worry about losing control because they don't believe in their strength and doubt their ability to recover. They want you to know that they are good, in charge, important, powerful, smart, and right. It's important to be sympathetic when you correct their mistakes. Remember, controlling people secretly fear that their system is flawed. It's okay. On the positive side, controlling people have an excellent sense of industry. They love to project into the future because it is planning for the future that they feel they have the most control. They often have difficulty in assigning priorities and may worry excessively about a problem that is unlikely to occur merely because they feel powerful in addressing it, while they may ignore a severe conflict that already exists because it makes them feel uncomfortable. Because they are powerful persuaders, there is a danger of them diverting others away from more important issues and draining their energy. Once they do, expect to struggle to change it. A tire company hired a man to run its warehouse. Even so, the warehouse man's job was secure because he was the only one who knew how the system worked. Controlling people need limits as much as they need to set limits because they get bogged down in details. When controlling people feel overwhelmed, whenever something goes wrong, they increase controls, and this makes matters worse. So the balanced law, they're barely catching up with this psychological case of the archetype of this notion. The real balanced law of order and balance, they're barely catching up with the mishap in character. So recognize the real order and balance. When controlling people feel overwhelmed, they could suddenly let a difficult situation deteriorate. Remember, all these controls would not have been present if they were not so afraid of revealing this disorganized side. When controlling people begin to slip, they often search desperately for something that will make everything better and prove them right. Anticipate this pattern and cut your losses. In desperate straits, we are all capable of such self-deception. Okay. Modesty, humility. All we want is a break. We grasp at straws as our desperation makes us abandon our logic. Controlling people do not make good leaders at the top of corporate level. They do well leading small groups where they get personal feedback that keeps them from becoming isolated. And that's funny because that shit's self-reflected in the industry and in the system. Ain't that a bitch? Ain't that some shit? Still, they need supportive contact with others. For left to themselves, they will hide behind closed office doors and retreat. Controlling people, while controlling people are more loyal to their own habits than to the company they work for, their thought process can be a marvel of organization and thoroughness. At such times, they give convoluted answers, over-complete explanations, and advice bordering on the far-fetched. While they may follow rules to the last detail, their judgment lacks all common sense, and trying to prove how brilliantly they are, they only reveal their confusion and insecurity. They forget that how smart you are depends on how free you are from need. In dealing with the controlling superior, remember his or her tendency to use you coldly and to blame all failures on you. When he gets demanding, ask him if he thinks he is being unreasonable. Help him correct his thinking. Tell him that the pressure he's creating is making your job more difficult. And obviously, we could have a book discussion after of like, maybe I missed a sentence and you might want to bring that sentence up, right? Be polite and matter of fact, but be direct. Don't challenge him. Whatever you do, don't take his controlling personally. So don't let him intimidate you. Interview him. Keep him explaining. He'll see you as an open and cooperative if you don't contradict him. Controlling superiors are easily humored because they cannot imagine that others do not take them seriously. Unfortunately, humoring is sometimes the only way you can deal with them. And I'm skim reading it. It will just infuriate them, and if they are in control, you may find yourself being assigned a lot of tedious, busy work for punishment. That is their specialty. So the international law of balance, it's really advanced with the original AI because it's recognizing the distortion in the psychology perspective and how that interconnects with the system. If you cannot tolerate working under a controlling boss without being by him, leave. The boss won't change it, and you'll just wear yourself out. There's really little point in staying unless you learn not to care. Competitive people. Ooh. Okay, so pretty much I got, because I just want to skim, I'm going to skim 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pages. Okay, let's get through these 8 pages, or 7.5. People mistakenly label themselves competitive when they really mean hard-driving, self-reliant, or determined. The hiker who lives through 2 weeks lost in the wilderness and thinks his competitive spirit is really talking about his survival instinct. There are many degrees of competitiveness, and just as everyone has some dependent and controlling traits, everyone is also competitive. Schools foster competitiveness. Time uses up life energy, and so as competitive people grow older, they burn out and dread being overtaken. Competitive people make up the backbone of every sales force, sports team, and marketing division. Competitive people want to be better. This is both their strength and their weakness. They want to be winners all the time, but it's an unreasonable goal. In the competitive game, someone always has to lose. Mature people learn that the proper aim is to be their best, to compete with themselves, to find a nurturing way of life. But competitive people get most fired up when besting an opponent. This is also what holds them back because they tend to tailor their behavior to win praise. Deep down, all competitive people are insecure and need external reassurance. They may appear to be good sports on the surface, but they are deeply hurt by a loss, and while they may use the pain of that loss to motivate themselves, they cannot rest until they win again. This book is just, it's gold. They may appear to be good sports on the surface, but they are deeply hurt by loss, and while they may use the pain of that loss to motivate themselves, they cannot rest until they win again. Gold. It is this relentless outward drive that makes the competitive person so valuable in business. Competitive people in business, especially those who work for someone else, risk not for personal goals, but for a symbolic reward, money or praise, even if they try to portray their employer's goal as their own. The goal of managing competitive people is to help them find a balance between continuing to achieve and learning to please themselves. While they may seek to improve their playing skills to become better salesmen or negotiators, they are mainly focused on winning in the moment. They do not set personal long-term goals. Their rewards are now. And there's archetypes that are literally just, that's what it is. That's like, if an organization wishes to capitalize on its competitive people, it should be prepared to manage their stress or not. So while quitting the rat race to run a small inn in Vermont is a widely held secret dream, the object of managing competitive types remains to help them align their personal goals with those of the company without manipulating them. Pressuring them into working hard to prove themselves and win praise doesn't work after a while. There's just so much energy to go around in a person's life. By and large, it's easy to manage competitive people, reward them generously in words and pay. Competitive people want attention, need recognition, love, applause, feel insecure, feel failure. And I'm like, I know, customer service is still a thing, you know. You still have to like kind of greet people. There has to be like a courteous. There has to be a mature courteousness, you know. In like the professional field, there has to be some type of mature courteousness in the professional field or not. Competitive people want attention, need recognition, love, applause, feel insecure, fear, failure, dread being embarrassed, want to be better than the other person, and need to go. They need praise and need to hear well done. Even though competitive people often work well in teams, they secretly want to be the most valuable players. They need continual reinforcement for doing their best and to be reminded of their value. Some never recover from the realization that they won't ever get to the top because they are driven only by the hope of victory and have little, if any, preparation for defeat, losing, and that may mean being second out of a field of 1,000, has the capacity for triggering deep feelings of worthlessness and even depression. Losing, like winning, is overvalued. To manage competitive people in defeat, help them find some sense of personal worth. Consistency and reliability need to be valued as much as being a hotshot. Competitive people cannot remain effective unless they develop this broader view of themselves. They need to see their value as extending beyond the accomplishment of a particular moment. Underneath the competitive trait lies a need to be taken in and cared for. Form a personal relationship with competitive people and help them feel secure. Competitive people do best when they are encouraged to motivate themselves. Motivate yourself, and they work hardest for someone who accepts them even when they aren't performing at their best. So I like how this chapter is leaving it on a good note. The chapter itself is leaving it on a good note. So that's some good news, right? So competitive people do best when they're encouraged to motivate themselves, and they work hardest for someone who accepts them even when they aren't performing at their best. In the long run, the most humane system encourages the best performance. In the long run, the most humane system encourages the best performance per what your nature is, right? Per the quote unquote human design quote. Like maybe what they're telling you and how something can work for you, maybe it doesn't work for you, right? Maybe there's a different way you can function, right? Respectively, for the sake of a different notion and context of performance, right? Everyone needs to belong. That's understandable. Everyone needs to belong to make a contribution and feel worthwhile. We see you. Yeah, we see y'all. Everyone needs to belong to make a contribution and feel worthwhile, even you, Senator, and to develop a sense of security that goes beyond the fluctuations of daily performance. More than anything else, people are searching for some meaning in their work and life. You know, be grateful to resonate in the work you get to resonate. There's like, we should start off, if we have the job we want, then shouldn't we be sharing gratitude? The next section, psychopaths, con men. No judgment. Understanding psychopaths is important, even if you may have very few contacts with them, because each time you do, you risk being taken. The way to deal with psychopaths is to trust your suspicions. If you feel any doubt about what anyone is telling you, express it at once. And based on what you express and based on their response, you can tell what kind of psychopath there is based on their response. Clean, narky. On a rudimentary level, there's a clean psychopath. There's a differentiation within quote unquote a psychopath end quote. The rudimentary level is a clean narc. It's a narc clean, a narcoling. And shout out to Dr. Rabbani, just cause, perhaps. There's narc clean. There's a clean narc. Psychopaths will almost certainly have a ready explanation. They're like, oh, why did you do this? Why? Like immediately they'll tell a lie. And people are some psychopaths on a standard esoteric science level, they're programmed to lie. It will sound prepared. It will be. If you pay attention to your feelings, something will still not sound right to you. Just ignore their answer and allow them to say, something doesn't make sense here. Ask them to repeat. They will speak quickly, glossing over critical details. And this something doesn't make sense here. That could be used in law enforcement. That could be used in the work industry. That could be used at work at your retail store. If you're dealing with a customer or an employee, some employees create drama and chisme where they make up stories to make a false case about someone so they could get you fired, so they could have their little victory within their little nutty shit to kind of just be a fucking their own unique little baby psychopath. Something doesn't make sense here. And this, ask them to repeat. They will speak quickly, glossing over critical details. Take your time. Ask more questions. Listen to their answers from a distance clinically. See if you can discern the motivation behind their words. For example, if you put money into a scheme you don't understand, the part you don't understand will be how you lose it. So it's like some type of pyramid scheme or Ponzi scheme. Certain beings have an archetype of a psychopath where they want you to put money into a program and then you will lose some fair, significant share of your money based on some type of psychopathic financial currency program, be it whatever label you want to give it, because this is mature intelligence in 2025. Remember, you will always have some feeling of doubt in dealing with psychopathic people. Pay attention to your doubt. It may be your only warning. Ignore your doubt, and these people will move in and talk you into believing their logic. Psychopaths are liars. They will tell one lie, and when you question them, they will back it up with another. They will do this with a straight face and thank you for asking the question. They have no moral compunction about this. In fact, they have no moral sense at all. They believe what is right is what is good for them. They lie constantly just to keep their world in order. They are the freeloaders of life. They do not care one whit about you. Expect them to be lying. You will seldom be wrong. You sometimes have to discover psychopaths indirectly by their wake, by the disturbances they leave behind. They are slippery and cover their tracks deviously. So is your nation's basic court systems basically energetically disaligned, fragmented, distorted, quote unquote rigged? Could your fucking advanced AI recognize that shit or not? Or is it just copy and paste, make money off of copy and paste demonic toxic tactic shit? Is your AI backed up by an intention where it's just toxic intelligence, overly toxic intelligence, respectively, in respects to the esoteric science, most respectively? They trick people into trusting them and keeping silent. If you look closely, you'll discover that they always seem to have some kind of controversy going around them. Fires haven't been put out. They're worried about what they've created for themselves. So and there's cause and effect. We're talking about cause and effect here. So let me run through this. The people working with them seem troubled. They undermine authority, destroy team morale, and create an attitude of suspicion and blame. And I'm not saying it directly to anybody. I'm saying the possibility of it. If you hire a psychopath, you are in trouble. If you discover a psychopath and do not fire him or her, you are a loser. Accept this. They are saboteurs. There is no curing them. They will never confess the truth. Okay. Unless money is involved. They will destroy goodwill. They will use you. They will never care. They will never help you. They flatter. They convince. They talk pretty. They act pretty. And yet they are often well liked by everyone because they prey on people's needs for attention and understanding. They sniff out a person's weak place and play to it. They befriend the lonely, the downtrodden, the insecure, and the desperate. It's like Satan sees a hole and he's coming in to infiltrate, basically. Satan sees a hole, now he's coming to do, he's using the demonic system from God's universe, that being the inverted system, not good, not bad. It's not what you do, it's how you do it. And he's using that to Chinese finger trap people. Metaphorically speaking. And I'm nothing against the Chinese. Some good questions to ask suspected psychopaths are, will you please repeat that? Will you put that in writing? They hate this. But when they consent, look for a highly manipulative document that is vague on a precise issue you wanted spelled out. Are you telling the truth? Ooh, they hate that one. Yo, that question alone on a basic level, that will get them going. Are you telling the truth? There's something being hidden that they're guarding. Are you telling the truth? Always good for shock value. Why are you offering this to me? Who else did you show this to? What did they say? Can I have their telephone number? If the contact is offered, make the call and see if the other person corroborates the information exactly. Remember, psychopaths set up everyone. Ask the contact how long they have known this person. Think about how they could have been set up. So I skim read it. I'm done. 1 to 2 more pages. Psychopaths love using pressure, but that's just their individual pressure. It is what it is. Thank God for life and the secret hard balance. Thank you, God. Thank you, God. Thank you, God. Thank you, original God. Thank you, original God. Thank you, original God. Psychopaths love using pressure. When they do stall, say, let me think this over. Take your time. So this is some good shit. This simple book is like thank you, David. When they do stall, say, let me think this over. Take your time. Ask your accountant. Tell them you want to talk to your lawyer. Watch their reaction. It will be very smooth, but you'll feel their discomfort. See if you could repeat the pitch convincingly to another person. If you can't, it means that the original presentation lacks something that their style conveyed. That style is your enemy. It blinds you by dazzling you with praise and appreciation. Remember, psychopaths know what you need. They are the ones who will give you the most sensitive compliments. They will be the one, and it is what it is, like we've known this in the 70s, like we've known this type of shit, like people have innately known this in the 70s. It is what it is, and even throughout time, in the fucking Roman Catholic ages, this was happening, this mentality, right? So it is what it is type of shit. They will be the ones you will feel like befriending. You will feel that they are genuine, that they really do see you as yourself. Even when they are genuine, they are steady. Their praise serves their purpose. You do best to thank them for their appreciation and let them go. Assume you owe them nothing. You don't owe them a thing. Once you have found a psychopath, get rid of them. Take time to absorb the material you have just read. It's a good idea to reread it in sections before and after you deal with a particular person. Since everyone possesses all 3 of the traits described above, it may not be possible to classify someone exactly. This material will still be useful in explaining dependent, controlling, or competitive behavior, even if the person who is exhibiting it doesn't fall precisely into one distinct category. So this is really good for future employee management. It's seeing how people could be susceptible to these energies and how you can cater to these energies based on where they're at within their stage of life and how they could be quote unquote dependent, controlling, or competitive in quote, and how that could be checked by seeing what agreement and contract that they signed up for, and are they doing that? And if they're not doing that, then contract terminated. Some basic shit, right? In general, dependent people will center around the issue of love, controlling behavior around power, and competitive behavior around self-esteem. The main point about being an effective people person is to care for other people, to understand them and help them fulfill their needs, not to use them or take unfair advantage of them. These guidelines are intended to form a base for understanding how to deal with people in the special situations that will be discussed in the remainder of this book. Whether you are conducting a meeting, interviewing, or negotiating, understanding what is important to the other person and how it influences his or her behavior will make it possible for you to avoid unnecessary conflicts and will define areas of mutual agreement. So what is important to the other person? Low key, liberty and sovereignty and freedom, but the intelligence hasn't dawned yet. But it's not for me to say what another person, what they want or what's important. But so when going into the meetings, it's up to me to ask what is important for you, just basic shit, A comparison of the three types of people: dependent type, controlling type, competitive type. First impressions on meeting them, driving forces, positive features, negative features, manifestation of stressful feelings, defensive positions. A comparison of three types of people: first impressions of meeting them, driving forces, positive features, negative features, defensive positions, manifestation of stressful feelings. I'll just read the manifestation of stressful feelings. So dependent type of people, they can manifest stressful feelings of panicking, addiction, afraid to look, feel sorry for themselves, smolders, physical symptoms, clinging, overwhelmed, you are complete, be an independent, life lesson. Okay, so there's a difference. So I'll just let you scream. Okay. I think I did it yesterday. So that's it, guys. So that chapter was kind of rough and raw. And then chapter 4, in a couple days, 3 to 4 days, chapter 4, face to face. Coming to me, paint to paint. Gloves off, type of shit. So, some of the chapters, they could, they all have their highs and lows, right? The chapters, life literally is like a roller coaster. The roller coaster has its highs and lows. And if you resonated with this roller coaster, much of gratitude, appreciation, and respect within the understanding of it. And chapter 4, face to face. In 1 to 2 days, I'll go back to the whole timeline. Chapter 4 seems some chapters are long, some chapters are short. So sometimes I could run through one chapter, maybe I'll run through 2 chapters, maybe I'll run through 3 chapters, right? So chapter 4 looks pretty short. Chapter 6, written communication. Chapter 5, using the telephone effectively. So chapter 4 and 5, face to face. We got the conversation is happening, the ball's rolling. There's going to be a time in the future where Trump and Z, they could conversate, they're ready, they did their homework, they're having the intelligence to understand shit, and now there's a possibility where Trump and Z could finally discuss some balanced shit or not. And then after chapter 5, using the telephone effectively. Now the real governments to the business protocols are updating their law and balance within the order and the hygienics of things or not. So after Trump and Z have their conversation, and maybe some other countries are there too, respectively, but like with people hyping up that conversation for some reason, then we could know, like then we could just like know what to do, right? We can try to follow alignment. We could try to follow the chaos. We could try to make harmony from chaos, and we could see the chaos from the order. You have the best life ever. So that's the thing with the future hype of the information game, the IG. It's following up from the harmony from the chaos and the chaos from the order, and then doing the fucking, the quote unquote, the sales thing after, the trade war is having more balance for the world to be a more safer place. And I know that one was kind of raw, And the title of this video is like just kind of like recognizing just read between the lines of this conversation, right? You have the best conversation.